Dear faraway friend.
So today's going to be a little bit different because I'm jumping on a train and I'm going to the Highlands.
There have been many forms of transport that have been romanticised over the years, but somehow I feel the one that deserves it the most is the train. I consider this as I'm currently sat on a train travelling up to the Highlands. A journey that I feel is perhaps one of the easiest to romanticise in the UK. My specific route is from Edinburgh to Inverness, a route that passes through 2 gateways to the Highlands. It's also not regarded as the most beautiful route into the Highlands. That accolade usually goes to the West Highland line from Glasgow to Oban or Fort William on the west coast. Still, this journey is no ugly duckling. As with almost all rail routes in the UK, the route to Inverness through the Cairngorms was originally built in the mid-19th century, although the current direct route was completed around 1898. Considering the demand on the route at prime times of year, it seems madness the line between Perth and Inverness is almost entirely single track, with passing loops at certain stations. In the summer, the trains are often packed full of tourists heading up to Inverness from Glasgow or Edinburgh, or the other direction to go home. In the winter, Aviemore, a stop on the way, is a favourite location for people heading to ski slopes or to go find the reindeer that live on the mountains. The Cairngorms are also a favourite spot for hill walkers or Munro baggers. To me, the Cairngorms are the secret country of the climber, hiker, nature writer and poet. And none more so than Nan Shepherd, who was all 4 of those things. The most famous, and many would argue pivotal, of Nan Shepherd's works is The Living Mountain, a meandering piece of reflective non-fiction that is now identified as nature writing. The book isn't long, but it is packed with insight, written with remarkable poise and poetic flair that really makes her wanders around the Cairngorms spring off the page.
Summer on the high plateau can be delectable as honey. It can also be a roaring scourge. To those who love the place, both are good, since both are part of its essential nature. And it is to know its essential nature that I am seeking here. To know, that is, with the knowledge that is the process of living. This is not done easily, nor in an hour.
For me, though, her often overlooked poetry about the Cairngorms stands out as a subtle but wonderful achievement. The poetry can feel a little dated, as it has a touch of the Victorian classicism about it, which is somewhat odd for an early 20th century writer. Yet the poems are like hymns to the mountains, lullabies to the hills and woods. Their slight sense of innocence is reflective of Shepherd's childlike wonder at the countryside. It just occurred to me that I've been talking about the Cairngorms and Nan Shepherd without actually explaining what the Cairngorms is or who Nan Shepherd was. So let's start with the place. Today, the Cairngorms is part of a national park that was Scotland's second national park. Perhaps surprisingly, Scotland only currently has 2 national parks, and the Cairngorms National Park was only established in 2003. The park is the largest in the UK and spreads across several mountain ranges and ancient woodlands, but the Cairngorms Range sits at the heart of it. The Cairngorms Range is a high plateau of around 1,100 metres on average above sea level, with domed peaks of up to 1,300 metres. The environment is generally subarctic to Arctic tundra and can get exceptionally cold in the winters in comparison to the average in the UK. I find it a handy reminder that the UK sits and stretches much further north than is commonly perceived. After all, my favourite pub quiz question is: if you were to move the UK westward, maintaining its lines of latitude, it would make contact with only one state of the USA. Which one? Do you think you can find the answer? I'm not sure that the Cairngorms National Park is quite as pretty as Loch Lomond and the Trossachs, Scotland's other national park. But it possesses an eerie majesty and domineering character that I find both uneasy and fascinating. When passing through the broadest rolling peaks and valleys of the plateau, the central range has a foreboding, almost threatening character, but is nevertheless beautiful in its broad-shouldered danger. As Nan Shepherd warns, the mountain is fickle and can change at a moment's notice. It can take extensive experience to not get caught out by this place. Although it's now less common, you can, if you climb to the top of one of the Munros, occasionally find yourself watching planes or helicopters flying past below you. Something that Nan Shepherd reflects on as leading to many plane crashes when pilots had gotten caught in a sudden fog. Anna Nan Shepherd was a writer and poet of the modernist era and movement, although she often wrote more like a romantic. She was born 11th of February 1893, was a graduate of Aberdeen University, and passed away on the 27th of February in 1981. Nan Shepherd worked most of her life at the Aberdeen College for Education, a now defunct teacher training institution, and she edited the Aberdeen University Review until 1963. She was awarded an honorary doctorate by Aberdeen University in 1964. Nan remained single her entire life, with the slight exception of a passionate love affair in her late 20s with the already married philosopher John McMurray. The tumult of that experience led to confessional poetry and an almost mystical relationship with the Cairngorms Mountains that would shape the rest of her literary life. She published her first novel, The Quarrywood, in 1928. Her only poetry collection, Into the Cairngorms, was initially published in 1934 and reissued in 2015. Her breakthrough non-fiction, The Living Mountain, was initially written in the early 1940s, but didn't see publication until 1977. By far, The Living Mountain is the work that Nan Shepherd is best known for, and is a stunning example of nature writing. The book has a winding natural flow without any specific narrative. Instead, it is more of a collection of anecdotes brought together in a reflection of the peace and environment that is the Cairngorms. It is the life of the mountain that unifies the book into a single work. What's truly fascinating about the book is the independent nature of the writing and stories being told. Considering many of the tales date to the 1920s and 30s, Shepherd regales the reader with anecdotes of skinny dipping in high mountain lochs, dismissing the unwarranted advice of less experienced men, and an affinity with the natural ebbs and flows of the environment. At times, the writing sounds incredibly contemporary, and yet holds on to those elements of mystery and fascination that epitomise the earlier writings of the Romantics. Yet her reflections on the mountain are not as metaphor or muse. Rather, the mountain is as much within her, a part of her, as it is a space she inhabits.
There is more in the lust for a mountaintop than a perfect physiological adjustment. What more there is lies within the mountain. Something moves between me and it. Place and a mind may interpenetrate till the nature of both is altered. I cannot tell what this movement is except by recounting it.
I can't help but look at those great humps as I ride past on the train, the way they look deceptively manageable, and think how much I would like to be up there. What a bliss to be high over the bland worries of this world we've created. All labour, duty and money. Everything garnered towards knowing our place and staying in it. Then the knowledge of how utterly meaningless all of that is once you stand above and outside it, surrounded by the slow, unstoppable might of time and nature. We are just mere moments, blips on the great tapestry of the universe. Yet we are also unique. We have the capacity to look at everything and make sense of it. Through science, philosophy and art, we have gateways to understanding and insight thanks to those moments of consciousness lent to us by the universe. That makes us rare. That makes us precious. We will all, one day, return our stuff to the stars. But before then, we can help give the universe knowledge of itself. Yet we cannot fulfill our great mission we are uniquely equipped for when we are toiling for the short term, for the greed of ourselves or others. So, my dear faraway friend, I beg of you to take notice, to stop and consider the world around you. Approach it and the people you meet with curiosity and kindness, knowing that they are all the scattered dust from stars that died billions of years ago, here for a moment before returning to the earth and the stars once more. We are all at once unique and one together. Listen to the quiet voices as they whisper, for they may whisper the answer you need. Farewell for this week, my dear friend.